I think I finally had enough of vampire and werewolf books. Moon Called is the first book in the Mercy Thompson series, written by Patricia Briggs and was published in early 2006. It is yet another urban fantasy that features vampires and werewolves, as well as fey creatures, gremlins, fairies, and the like. Mercy Thompson's world looks much like ours, but the fey creatures are now known to the world, having been forced out into the open by what are essentially their elders. Vampires and werewolves are still unknown, but there is some talk among their kind about coming out into the open. The book is basically True Blood fanfiction, taking a few liberties. The book received high praise, earning an average 4.18 rating out of 5 on Goodreads.com. So what did I think about it? I don't know how exactly this book got the success that it did. While I don't know much about Patricia Briggs, her other works, or how she came up with her world, I found this book immensely boring. Very little happens in terms of plot and character, and the stuff that does happen is drowned out by repetitive exposition and side characters who are so uninspired that they may as well be palette swaps of each other. The basic story is this. There's an evil plot to trick one werewolf to fight another werewolf in what turns out to be some lame revenge plot, or something. And that's really it. There were multiple subplots, if you can call them that, to expand on characters in the world, but most of them were meaningless and didn't alter anything. For example, one werewolf, named Warren, was gay and had a lover named Kyle. And yes, I can hear some of you snickering while you're listening to this. Kyle didn't know Warren was a werewolf, because Warren wasn't allowed to tell. Pack rules forbade it for some reason. So, when Kyle and Warren have a tiff, I can't even call it a real fight, Mercy goes after him and explains Warren's situation. As an idea, it isn't bad, but it doesn't lead anywhere. We never see Kyle again, and Warren seems unchanged in the following scenes. It's fine if the author wants to have a pro-gay message, but could it at least have some degree of importance on the story? And this pisses me off because I almost never see characters named Kyle. And when the scenes weren't boring, they were annoying. At one point, Mercy and a werewolf friend named Samuel head into a vampire den for some information. Within it, they get attacked by the vampires, and Samuel gets fed upon by their matriarch. Aside from the fact that the most interesting of these vampires is some faceless boob who drives a Scooby-Doo van, this is described multiple times as an act of aggression, which could lead to war between the vampires and the werewolves. Does it lead to anything? No! Nothing whatsoever. They get an address to some place and Mercy drags Samuel's bleeding ass out of the den. Next scene, please. The book starts when Mercy meets a newly turned werewolf at her auto shop, who is then murdered almost immediately, which leads to the events in the book. So much for character development. Now, Mercy is what's called a walker, or a skin changer. She can transform into a coyote at will and has increased senses to go along with it. She's also very attractive, as evidenced by the werewolves who fight for her attention. Well, it's not fighting so much as claiming her as their own without so much as her say-so. To her credit, she does keep the plot moving, though at a snail's pace. There are a number of side characters, but as I've mentioned before, none of them stand out. Perhaps the biggest name out of the lot of them would be Adam, Mercy's next-door neighbor and alpha of the local pack of werewolves. If you've seen the shirtless guy on the cover of a Harlequin romance novel, that's Adam. Conveniently enough, that same shirtless guy cover perfectly sums up Adam's personality. He's just the resident sexy guy for Mercy to maybe fall in love with later in the series. I don't know that for a fact, but I was extremely unimpressed with him. He's described as one of the toughest alphas in the nation, as there are multiple packs, but he's taken out in a fight we never get to see, then spends more than half the book recovering from his wounds in the back of a truck while Mercy totes him around. There's also something of a romance angle that the book tries to play with, but it's presented by werewolf rules, meaning Mercy is more or less claimed by Adam, very much like property. I'm sure the feminists will love this one. By the time he finally gets around to leading a raid against the central antagonist, he gets his dumb ass captured and filled up to the eyeballs with drugs that keep him loopy and useless. He could have been replaced by a mobile sack of potatoes and I would have had the same amount of emotional investment in his character. The story is told in first-person perspective and follows Mercy around this menial adventure. But the prose is some of the worst I've read in quite a while. I can't remember the last time I saw such a gross violation of the show don't tell rule. Mercy explains every minute detail to the reader, never giving anything a chance to reveal itself through dialogue or natural events. Even Twilight did a better job in explaining details. Yes, really. On top of that, much of the information gets repeated over and over in only slightly altering ways. On multiple occasions, Mercy felt the need to remind us that the initial change from human to wolf often kills fledgling werewolves. Here's a hint to the author. If your readers didn't understand that the first time, then they probably won't on the 5th or 6th time. I'm sure it goes without saying that I didn't enjoy this book. The characters were bland, the plot was sluggish and wafer thin, and by the 4th extraneous plot thread, you'll be crying for mercy yourself. Overall, Moon Called is a sleep aid. Don't even bother with this one. So, have you read the book? What did you think? If not, do you want to read it now? What are you, crazy? Whatever your thoughts, comment below and stay tuned for more.